Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back for another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have every single parent in Ohio should watch this. I don't know about the rest of you all, but the implication that children with disabilities don't have loving homes from State Senator George Lang is absolutely abhorrent, for posted by Donald Key, and that's cross-post from the Ohio subreddit. And yeah, Reddit, they're always going on about, they'll always go after anything any GOP politician says that they can be constituted as offensive. I'm sure that, um, maybe it's offensive. I don't really know, but Reddit. If you advocate against the Department of Education or if you advocate for shrinking the government at all, like against the Department of Education, like this guy, like George Lang was doing here, or reducing funding to literally anything. Reddit's gonna go after for it. They'll say, "Oh, people will die. Your policies are literally killing people. You're literally Hitler." Eventually, you just realize it's all just propaganda and fear mongering, and you gotta stop taking it seriously. Then we have hypocrisy of conservative free speech warriors from Anarcho Federation, and that's the YouTube video from the Humanist Report. They added right wingers like Ben Shapiro, Asmund Gould, Dave Rubin, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Dan Crenshaw, and others have portrayed themselves as longtime defenders of free speech. However, they've all had a sudden change of heart now that Muhammad Khalil, a Palestinian human rights activist, is being punished for speech they don't like. In this video, we'll talk about the ways these conservative hucksters are twisting themselves into pretzels and doing mental gymnastics to justify a brazen violation of the First Amendment. And I personally would agree, but it's relatively empty words coming from the same type of people who are saying, I support free speech, but we gotta censor hate speech and misinformation. These people don't care about free speech either, and that's important to note. They like pointing out the hypocrisy of the out group in regards to Mahmoud Khalil, but they never point out the hypocrisy of the in-group in regards to themselves actively wanting censorship in regards to what they deem to be hate speech and or misinformation. Then we have Fox is making a convincing argument for Tim Walz 2028, and that's a screenshot from Fox Business. I think it's a fake screenshot, but it says Tim Walz's communist agenda, unsupervised female health decisions, rampant LGBTQIA+ rights, school lunches for unemployed minors, immediate medical care for elderly, sick or injured, taxes on corporate profits, couches, free non-Christian college, believes in climate change hoax. And yeah, that's just Reddit kind of circle jerking how bad Fox is and how great Tim Walz is. But I personally don't care for Fox or any other of the legacy media. But Tim Walz is very much an authoritarian, even if he tries to act like he's libertarian. He went on MSNBC and said, we got to he pretty much said, there's no exception in the First Amendment for hate speech or misinformation. And yeah, that's very authoritarian if you ask me. But I'm sure if Reddit got him, if Reddit had its way, he'd be the president right now, and he's like the father they never had, because of course Reddit, they have all the progressive daddy issues, it seems like. And yeah, so I personally don't care for this, but this is just another Democrats good, Republicans bad. Reddit might say, oh, we don't like the Democrats, but they'll always really support the who fall in line with whoever the Democrats nominate. It's like when Bernie was running, they said, oh, we're never going to support Hillary, but then overnight, Reddit became Hillary Central. So, Reddit, they'll say, oh, we don't like the Democrats, but they'll always support whoever they run, and the only complaint that they'll ever have against them is that they're not progressive enough. Then we have Trump says CNN and MSDNC are illegal and political arms of the Democrats, posted by Swamp Yankee Dan. That's cross-post from the Fwamwa subreddit. And yeah, I personally don't think any media should be illegal. Well, maybe child pornography, but that's an exception. I don't think any media should be illegal, so I disagree with him on that front. But ultimately, there's some media that should probably be legal, like child pornography. But as long as you keep it to yourself, I think that should be your own thing. That's some of but that's one of the only kinds of media I think that shouldn't be distributed. So but anyway, regardless, I definitely disagree with that. It should be illegal. But I would agree that those are essentially political arms of the Democrats. But with that being said, you have some other legacy media like Fox News, which is more a political arm of the Republicans as well, even though there's not as many of them as there is legacy media that's proper political arms of the Democrats. But yeah, I don't think they should be illegal. I think people are catching on to that they're just arms of the Democrats, and social media is making people realize it. And you don't need to make them legal; just let them fail on their own accord. But Donald Trump, he always likes to rile people up by saying, "Oh, they need to be illegal." Eventually, I would just stop trying to rile people up. But just let them fail on their own accord. People are realizing that they're political arms of the Democrats. You don't have to add that they should be illegal as well. Then we have ICE agents torture man in an apparent attempt to force him to surrender his green card from NHPR.org, hosted by LegioX. And yeah, I don't think that's good. It just goes to show you how the government can justify using whatever force it wants to on you, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Then we have Governor Greg Abbott backs bill banning non-human behavior in schools from cut.org, posted by FilmTL5563, and that's cross post from the Texas subreddit. And yeah, I personally don't think people should be acting non-human in schools, acting overly furry and bringing their furry suit in. But I don't think that's something the state should be legislating. I think, that should be up to the discretion of the teachers and who's ever on staff that day rather than the state. Then we have DOJ is examining whether student protests at Columbia University against the genocide in Gaza violated federal terrorism laws. DOJ will also investigate civil rights violations stemming from Trump administration expanded definition of anti-Semitism to include criticism of Israel. And that's a post from Ninja Lover, and that's a cross post from the Law subreddit. And yeah, I personally think, as I said earlier, these people, they care about, they say they hear about freedom of speech, but then Israel comes in and they say, oh, you can't say that, that's anti-Semitism. But with that being said, it's not like the other side cares about free speech either. They always say, oh, we gotta have free speech unless it's hate speech or misinformation. Like the guy who posted this, he said he seems to care about free speech, but he's had me censored from the subreddit for months. So it just goes to show you how everyone's kind of hypocritical to some extent, especially when it comes to a topic like free speech. Then we have Fred Foldberry, Why Am I a Georgist, from Progress.org, and posted by Anarcho Federation, and they added, Foldberry was the premier geo-libertarian economist and philosopher of the late 20th and early 21st century. Though he is no longer with us, he left a legacy of keeping the school of geoism evolving into the modern era. Here he shares how he came to the tradition and his steadfast conviction of a libertarian society achieved by the original trajectory of liberalism and progressive and radical theocracy. And yeah, as I said in previous episodes, I like Georgism. First, in some aspects, I like how it streamlines all the taxes into one land value tax, but still, I don't think people should be forced to pay taxes if they don't want to, and so that would be my disagreement with it. And yeah, that's my thoughts there. Then we have Say Please and Thank You, Mr. Hoser, posted by Donald Key, and that's a cross post from the A Buddy Hoser subreddit. Manitoba Premier and that's some video. Manitoba Premier trolls JD Vance. Please, Mr. Premier. And yeah, that's just another Republicans bad post. That's pretty much all Reddit is all Republicans bad, Democrats good, etc., etc. Even on non-political subreddits at this point, and it gets to be tiring after a while. But you gotta call them out on it. You gotta use your free speech when you still have it, because Reddit they love woke censorship. I remember I posted a comment on the Gen Z subreddit saying, constantly woke schooling people and calling everyone you disagree with Nazis is a way to alienate people, and that was censored within 10 minutes. So, you gotta keep using your free speech, while you still have, because, with the way Reddit's taking society, and a lot of social media loves censorship as well, but Reddit's kind of the king of censorship at this point, which is a shame, because under Aaron Swartz, it used to be one of the most pro-free speech websites on the internet. But regardless, you gotta keep using your free speech and not let the woke censorship win. And then we have, do you support the posted by FunCal321, and that's a picture of the logo of the Libertarian Party of Hawaii. And yeah, I personally support the Libertarian Party. I don't agree with everyone in it 100% of the time, but I definitely do think it's something worth supporting. It's not going to get the presidency anytime soon. Maybe not. It's not going to hold a major elected office even anytime soon. But it's definitely worth supporting because you should be supporting your principles rather than just power. And that's what I see the major parties doing. They'll say they support their principles, but all they do is support their own power. All they want is all they're concerned about is their own power rather than principles. Then we have U.S. deports hundreds of Venezuelans despite court order from bbc.co.uk posted by LegioX. And yeah, I don't think that's good, but ultimately the state can justify doing whatever it wants to. It doesn't matter what the court says. As Andrew Jackson once famously said, Marshall made his decision, now let him enforce it. So because it doesn't really matter what the court says if the people don't want to enforce its rulings. So that's my thoughts there. Then we have Trump's Greenland annexation push scores huge victory as anti-Denmark parties win election, posted by FunCal321, and that's a YouTube video from Vince Dale. And yeah, I personally don't think we should annex Greenland. I think we need to support individual autonomy rather than annexing an empire, and annexing Greenland would be the course of empire. So I personally think we should just let Greenland be independent. But ultimately, it comes down to, as with everything else, who has the force to do what. Then we have, in going after Thomas Massie, how much damage is Trump willing to take in upsetting the deeply conservative base? Posted by General Carlos Q17, and they said, I voted for Trump all 3 times now, but I'm not all happy with Trump going after Thomas Massie for voting no on the more than obvious continuing to spend money when we need to cut backs, which is supposed to be Trump's prime agenda. Here is my view of Thomas Massie. I might be right, or I might be wrong, but this is standing up and not kissing the ring. Thomas Massie is America first, and will have my respect until he shows otherwise. Thomas Massie leans far more libertarian than rubber-stamking GOP fanboy. Simple fact, Massie is not perfect, but he makes a 100% solid point about continued spending with the party is addicted to like a mental patient on crack. Do you notice Senator Rand Paul voted no on stopgap bill too? But did Trump go after him across social media? No, he did not, because Rand have set Trump straight then and there. Trump is just being the typical bully in the playground from whom he thinks he can win. Massie doesn't play like that. If Trump tries to primary Massie, he's going to lose bigly, no matter how much money he tries to buy the seat with. And I'd agree with all that. I personally never voted for Trump, and this person voted for Trump all 3 times. But yeah, I definitely do think Thomas Massie's one of the more principled members of Congress, and I hope he might be able to run for the presidency someday. But he's been against the American Israel lobby is definitely going to hurt him, because that's obviously the most powerful. That's probably the most powerful lobby in a city chock full of them. Then we have Minnesota legislators attempting to get any Trump opposition faults declared a mental illness called Trump derangement syndrome from revisor.mn.gov, hosted by CH4Lux. And yeah, I personally think what constitutes mental illness can be subjective a lot of the time. I personally would consider Trump derangement syndrome to be a mental illness at this point. The people who can't shut up about the guy and have to say Orange Man bad every single day, I personally would consider that a mental illness. But I personally don't think the state should be telling people what mental illness are. I think that should be each individual should come to their own conclusion of what a mental illness is. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Also, it's probably got no chance of passing because Minnesota is a pretty solidly blue state. But Reddit, they need their weekly rage bait. Then we have kidney transplant specialists deported for taking our jobs by Dina B. Free. And they added, y'all need to understand how this works. We can't just have these foreigners taking all the good jobs. Now that Dr. Rasha Alaway, an MD specializing in kidney transplants and teaching at one of the most prestigious universities, is gone, I'm sure there are dozens of 20-something gamers living in their parents' basements who will step up to the plate and start handling our transplant surgeries for us. They just haven't been able to find jobs. Thank heavens there's an opening now. Keep up the good work, idiot Trumpers. Those of you who need medical specialists, be very afraid. And then they link to the story from the Brown Daily Herald about the doctor getting deported. And yeah, I personally don't think they should have deported a kidney surgeon. But, ultimately the state has the force to justify doing whatever it wants to, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Then we have Tom Homan after deportation flights. I don't care what the judges think. Boot from Axios.com by Donald Key. And yeah, it's another thing, it doesn't really matter what the courts say. It matters who has the enforcement rather than the law, I would say. People always go about how important laws are, but I think laws are just words on a piece of paper. What matters is how they're enforced, and this is a good example of that. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.